What's going on, guys? So in this video we're going to be taking a look at 10 of my personal favorite higher end luxury fragrances that I plan on wearing this fall season. Some of these are newer releases for this year that were just, there was times during the summer when I was able to wear them, but they're just so much better suited for fall. A personal favorite of mine that in the first quarter of the year I wore the hell out of. Now that it's going to start cooling down again, it's time to pull it back out. And then some personal favorites of mine that I've had for a while that I like to wear in the fall. So I want to talk to you about them. Stay tuned. Starting with one that I did a themed week recently on Montal, and this is probably the most versatile besides Fougères Marine that I own. We are talking about the famed Wood and Spices. This is some really, really good stuff. Love the way it smells. Creamy, spicy, powdery, very woody. Beautiful fragrance. More fresh spicy, not a warm and spicy scent profile. It gets very powdery. It's a simplistic note breakdown. My wife loves the way this smells. This is a very attractive scent. Performance is fantastic on it. Absolutely sample worthy. One of the best of the house of what I've tried. I own 11 or 12 full bottles. I've sampled a handful of others from Montal. Obviously, there's a ridiculous library of Montal fragrances out there to try, but of what I've tried in the sub 20 range, it's in the teens somewhere as far as fragrances I've smelled. It's overwhelming. Those two sprays are just covering the area. This stuff's a monster. And you can get like a tester like this, for example. Comes in a white tester box. Instead of being on the neck, the pin sticks through the head, as you can see. Cover me so it'll focus. There we go. So you can see how it comes through. Bottles like this you can get in the $60 to $70 range. You may get lucky and find it in the 50s somewhere, but absolute bargain at that price point because the quality's there. The just greatness of the blend and the scent profile is there, and of course the performance. Check this one out this fall. It's great for this season. It's Montal Wood and Spices. Next, when in doubt, you can always rock this. It goes great in the winter season as well. Great daytime scent, great evening and date night scent for sure. But these spicy fragrances, I'll wear them anytime when it's cooler. We're talking about Parfums de Layton, one of my personal favorites. Love this stuff. I can't say enough good about it. Yes, it has that Vicks Vapor Rub menthol type of smell from the geranium in the top that I find oddly addictive. A lot of cardamom spice. There's a nice fruitiness to some apple. There's a creamy, sweet vanilla smell. There's some other notes going on here, but that's the most dominating things you're going to smell. Performance is great again on this one. Actually, every fragrance in this video performs really well, so I don't really need to touch on performance. I guess I'll just note when they're a crazy beast versus just a really good performer. And I wouldn't call this a crazy beast, but it's definitely a really good performer. This is a very polarizing scent because a lot of people really like it, but there's some people that just don't get the hype and can't stand this fragrance. It is what it is. Not everybody likes every fragrance, as I tell you guys all the time. Definitely sample everything in this video. Sample, sample, sample. Don't blind buy these fragrances. They are expensive, and you stand to be disappointed when you spend that much money and just roll the dice. I would urge you to sample all of these fragrances, and that even goes for mass appealing fragrances, crowd pleasers, compliment beasts like Layton. Ready to pull this one out. The weather is getting cool enough for me already. We're already in the 70s consistently. Definitely looking forward to wearing it this fall. It's Parfums de Layton. While I love the original, it's one of my favorite fragrances in my collection. I think this was a great release for the brand. We're talking about Mancera's Intense Sidrepoise. This is one of the ones I wanted to point out is a ridiculous beast. I go anosmic to this one pretty quickly. It's a 45% oil concentration. It's much more animalic and spicy and darker overall. You still have some of that fruity freshness that the original is known for. It does smell like a much more intense version of the original. It's the right type of flanker to be called an intense version. Oh, it's so good. Let me spray it. Whole room's going to smell like it now. But point being, I go anosmic within the first 20 to 30 minutes, and then it takes a little while for my nose to come back, a few hours actually, and then I get a very strong sillage on my skin, heavy, heavy whiffs for hours on end. This is pretty much an all-day spray. The strength doesn't go away because the oil concentration is so high that the sillage is pretty stout with this fragrance. It lingers, it stays in a room after you leave for a little bit. It's really good stuff. Like I said, you're going to get a bit of oud, much more of the leather. It's more musky and animalic in its base. It's more warm and spicy, but still very fruity in the top. It's just all around great. Sample first, obviously. There is a lot of redundancy here to the original. If you have the original, no, you don't need this. But for me, there's enough differences to where I wear them for different situations. I'm happy to have both. But I definitely urge you to get a sample and try it first because it's not that easy. I haven't seen anywhere having this discounted yet. So as far as I know, it's still pretty much retail with maybe a 10% off code here and there. So sample. Sample, sample, sample. This stuff is really, really good. It's Mancera Intense Sidrepoise. My preferred take on this scent profile, now that it's not as hot, I can pull this one out. Granted, I may not wear it that often in the fall. It's going to be more for dressy occasions, which I do have a few things coming up this fall that I'm going to need to dress up for. And why not go with Nishane Hacivat? Gorgeous fruity chypre. Heavy dose of oak moss. Another one that I've heard mixed reviews on people saying it's not that beastly for them and they want to look at batch codes and all that good stuff. So let me go ahead and put that there for you that want to check this batch code. There you go. You can always pause and type it in the check fresh or wherever you want to check it. Not the newest of bottles out there, not the oldest of bottles, but it's a monster. This stuff performs. Sharp, crisp apple. Fruity, heavy dose of oak moss, earthy green, spicy, but not dark and earthy, more fresh and earthy, woody. It's just such a great blend. It's a dressier take on Aventus. It's not exactly the same as Aventus. It will remind you of it in the opening. As it dries, becomes its own fragrance for sure. The similarity is definitely in the opening. This isn't full of smoky notes. This doesn't have tart black currant. This is more fresh, woody, and green spicy. Such a good fragrance. 50 ml is plenty for me. I may never go through this bottle because I'm very situational with it. Like I said, it's going to be dressier occasions this fall that I'm going to reach for it. This is one of the two more formal setting fragrances for me in this particular video, one we haven't gotten to yet. But you can get these 50 mls in the $100 to $110 price point from discounters online. And I know $100 is a lot for a fragrance for a lot of people. I understand that. But this is one of those that's worth your money. Obviously, again, I stress sample it first, but for the money, Nishane puts out some really, really good fragrances. One of my favorite niche houses for sure, and this is definitely one of my favorites from them. It's Nishane Hacivat. Next, this is the fragrance I was referencing when I said one that I wore the hell out of in the first quarter of the year. Now that it's cooling down, it is time to start spraying Zaharoff Signature Tabac once again, so I can continue to drop that juice level that I started working on at the beginning of the year. I absolutely love this fragrance. The way I've described it in the past is the same way I'll describe it right now, is this takes all of the different ways that you can make a great tobacco fragrance and kind of balances a little bit of all of that. It's an aromatic, leafy, and herbal tobacco smell. There's some sweetness here. There's booze. There's woods. There's incense for a smoky tone. So you can get there's a little bit of spices. So you have a spicy tobacco, boozy tobacco, sweet tobacco, woody tobacco, aromatic tobacco, leafy tobacco. You get stages with this fragrance. Classy, but not too dressy. This is definitely one that can go either way. This can dress down. I've worn this with a t-shirt many times. I think it goes best with a polo, where because you can do so many things with a polo. You can go to dinner, you can go wherever. It's not too casual, but of course it's not overdressed for a lot of situations either. But this one also dresses up really well. That's why I say this can kind of do a little bit of everything. Signature scent-worthy tobacco type of fragrance, in my opinion. Performance is great on it. With this one's not a monstrous beast, but it's definitely not a weak fragrance. The Zaharoff fragrance I wear the most. Even though Rosé is my absolute favorite, this is the one I wear the most. In this fall, I'll be wearing the hell out of it. Zaharoff Signature Tabac. This is just such a great fragrance for when it's not hot as hell outside. We're talking about Bond Number 9's Bleecker Street. I featured this one not that long ago because I'm pretty excited to wear this one. There's a beautiful fruitiness. There's a creamy sweetness in the backdrop. It's just such a good fragrance. It's a classic from the brand. There's some woods here, fresh greens. It's got a beautiful scent character to it. Daytime, evening, dressed up, dressed down. Doesn't matter. Performance is perfectly fine. It's not a monster, but it's definitely not a weak fragrance either. This was one that I had to have. The first time I smelled Bleecker Street, I knew I needed a bottle of it eventually. I am happy to have a bottle. I don't wear it all the time. I plan on giving it much more love this fall than I did last fall. I wore it a handful of times last year, but I'm definitely going to wear it at minimum a handful of times this year. This is one I'm looking forward to because I just love the scent profile. The quality's there, and the performance is there. And like I said, not a ton of fragrances smell like this. I believe it's Ralph Lauren Purple Label. Last time I featured it, people were saying it smells like that. I've never smelled Ralph Lauren Purple Label. So if it's the same fragrance, it is what it is, but I've never smelled that. If they smell the same, that tells me Ralph Lauren Purple Label smells amazing. So apparently, try Ralph Lauren Purple Label. I don't know what the price difference is between the two, but you can always just get this one for a decent price online as far as niche is concerned. It's really good stuff. This fall, this is the Bond Number 9 fragrance I'll be reaching for. Bleecker Street. Next is a gorgeous, somewhat mysterious floral fragrance that I think is a great daytime wear, even though night is literally in the name. This is Fleurs de Golfe. This is Night Flower. I just started spending time with this one. There's 3 others that I have that are just wonderful. And this one I felt like when I smelled it is great for the autumn season. And I actually sprayed this when I was gathering these fragrances. I sprayed it on my arm earlier today. Just beautiful. Beautiful fragrance. Vanilla tonka bean. It's a little clean and musky. There's some lychee here for a little bit of sweet, fruity tone to it. It's a flirty fragrance that's not too youthful. I know that's kind of walk with me on my thought process here. I know that's kind of an odd way to describe this fragrance because there is a flirty, playful, feminine side to it with the lychee, but it's one that the tonka bean and the vanilla give it this sweetness that doesn't really tie it down and make things even more feminine. The way it comes across with this musk, I think adds enough of a masculine tone and a little bit of a mysterious nature to this without making it too much of an evening fragrance. That's why I find it interesting that it's a dark colored juice and it says night in the name, because this doesn't just strike me as a nighttime fragrance. This is a nice mild autumn day with a nice polo or Oxford on, going have lunch somewhere, maybe going to an early dinner or to have meet up to have drinks. This is one of those fragrances. I could even see somebody in a more formal setting for work where you're a business professional and you dress up Oxford or potentially a suit and tie. I feel like this could really work for you. This is a lovely fragrance. Fleurs de Golfe is kind of flying under the radar in the fragrance community. Not everybody knows about them. They are a independent niche house out of France. Like, you literally have to change the language and the currency when you go to their website. Everything's shipped directly from France, bottled, curated, blended, perfumed in France. This is a true French niche house. The quality is definitely there. I love the bottles, how it's recessed in here. They put out some really good original scent profiles, especially if you like floral fragrances, which I absolutely do. So this is one of those brands that's for me. I'll definitely be reaching for this one a lot this fall. I want to spend more time with it. This is the one of the 4 that I have that I haven't spent a ton of time with. Fleurs de Golfe Night Flower. This one's already been inserted into my rotation. I wore this last week. We're talking about Amouage Boundless. One of the Amouage fragrances I want to reach for. This and Journey are going to be getting a pretty good amount of run from me this year. This is a beautiful, zesty, and spicy tobacco that's very creamy, sweet, a little moist. This blood orange really pops in the opening. There's a beautiful ginger that reminds me of the ginger in 5 o'clock au gingembre from Serge Lutens. It kind of has that feel to it, that darker juiciness of ginger, like fresh cut, the moist edge when you cut into some ginger. This is a lovely fragrance. I think it's underrated from Amouage, to be honest with you. I don't think it gets enough love because this stuff's really good. Performance, all day. All day and then some. Sillage is great. It's everything you would expect from Amouage as far as performance. I wouldn't call this an overwhelming beast unless you're a heavy sprayer. If you're the heavy spray type, this is going to be an overwhelming beast. But if you're more on the moderate side, like I am for the most part, 5 to 7 sprays is plenty for this one. You will get noticed. It is a very, very strong fragrance. One of the better tobaccos out there, especially on the niche market. It's more of a mass-appealing tobacco with that Amouage touch, that Middle Eastern touch. You still get the incense. You still get the spices. You still get everything that most of us love about Amouage with a beautiful blood orange ginger tobacco combo. I'm telling you, this stuff's really, really good. It's Amouage Boundless. So this is the other more formal occasion fragrance I was talking about. I didn't wear it at all this summer because I feel like it's just too heavy and too earthy green for me to wear in the summer. But I'll tell you what, fall cooler days and especially fall evenings, one of those dressier occasions like I was talking about, I think Roja Parfums Apex is going to suit that very well. This is a beautiful green cypress, dense woods, earthy tones without being dirty. The blend's very good here. It's strong too. Definitely has that smoky green wood tone to it. It's not the most challenging fragrance in the world, but I can see where some people would not like this fragrance. I even said that in my first impressions months and months and months ago. I really dig this one. It's not too often that I'm a huge fan of earthy fragrances, whereas with this one, it's so well balanced with the greens. There's a dominating cypress note in here that I really like. It gives a little bit of a freshness to it for an overall dark and earthy fragrance. That's why I say that this one is very interesting. It's overwhelmingly strong after that spray. That's all I smell now. And I've sprayed a bunch of these fragrances. The only other one to kind of overwhelm my airspace was Woods and Spices from Montal. So this is a beast on my skin, and out in the air, it's almost smothering. This is another one that I would not want a heavy spray. Moderate sprays is still going to be pretty heavy with this fragrance, but it has a classiness and elegance and dressed up appeal to it. That's why I say more special occasions. I may only wear this one once or twice this fall, but I have it in line for certain events that I have coming up. This fragrance and Hacivat are the two that I have in mind because I have 3 special events coming up this fall. And this is going to be the 2 fragrances that are going to do the job. I don't foresee, I mean, that subject to change, but my plan as of now at the recording of this is I got one particular thing I definitely want to wear this for because it's such a good fragrance in my opinion. Absolutely sample first, not blind buy safe from a price standpoint or from a scent profile standpoint. This is not in any way, shape, or form blind buy safe. Definitely get a sample and try this one first. But when it comes to those dressy occasions I have coming up this fall, this is one of the 2 that I'm reaching for. Roja Parfums Apex. Last but most certainly not least is becoming one of my favorite fragrances released in the year of 2022. This is such a great rose wood fragrance. Not rose wood, but rose and woods. This is a beautiful dose of Mysore sandalwood. There's rose absolute. There's Bulgarian rose. There's spices. There's red berries. It's Argos, Adonis, Awakens. This is such a stunning fragrance. Christian did such a good job with this. Love the atomizer too. It's one of the more masculine rose fragrances I've ever smelled. The quality in the blend is second to none. The performance is outstanding. The class and elegance is there, but it's one that you can absolutely get away with casually. This one dresses up and dresses down. I have worn it casually every time I've worn it so far. This one has sat on my rotation table since I got it. It does not leave because I randomly spray this one, even though I don't wear it every day. I did wear it a little bit in the summer. I wore it maybe 3 or 4 times in the summer. It wasn't too much for the summer, but it is so strong and dense. I was easy on the sprays, and now that we're getting into this more mild fall season, I can spray this one a little bit more liberally, get more into that 7-8 spray range, really get a heavy sillage going, and enjoy the hell out of this one. This is almost the best from the house. It's hard for me to take Triumph of Bacchus off its pedestal, but it bumped Danye down from second to third as far as my favorites from the house. Baccio Immortelle has now fallen to fourth. It was my third favorite. That's one of my favorite fruity leather fragrances. Definitely one of my favorite leathers, but this has immediately become one of my favorite fragrances straight up, let alone one of my favorite rose fragrance. I mean, this and Zaharoff Signature Rosé are my two favorite rose fragrances, hands down, with Moschino Toy Boy falling somewhere in the back because those two are just so good. This is an amazing fragrance. This is going to be hard to top. I know he has a new release coming, but this is going to be hard to top. And I said that with Danye, and lo and behold, Pallas Athene. My wife loves, by the way. That top Danye for her, and Adonis Awakens. This top Danye for me. Get a sample and try this one. You can get carded samples. It's such a good fragrance. This is so good. I kind of saved... not really the best for last because all of these are so damn good, but this one has me the most excited because I smell this one all the time. This is great stuff for the fall season. Get a carded sample and try this. This is Argos Adonis Awakens. Well, that's the 10 that I have for you today, and until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. So I do appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. How many of you have tried any of the fragrances that I featured in this video, and what do you think about them? You know, some of these are more polarizing, some of these are more mass appealing, some of these are pretty new, but they're all pretty pricey for the most part. Some of them you can get for a decent price from discounters like your Montals and such, Nishane. It all depends on what you're looking for, but definitely don't blind buy any of these. If you're looking to purchase any of them, I would strongly advise, once again, to sample first because these are pricey. You know, rolling the dice on niche fragrances can be a very dangerous game. Because even though there's nothing really super challenging in this video, no guarantees that you're going to like everything just because I like these 10 doesn't mean you will. So definitely try before you buy. And until next time, I will say if you do get your hands on any of these 10 and you give them a spray now, there's a chance you might thank me later. Have a good one, guys.